Hey, what's up? It's me, your girl Nia. I am coming to you from Black Exploration with Nia. Drinking your water and minding your business is the best when you literally have a chemical imbalance that is causing the personality defect of narcissism. I only want to talk about this because I have supported men through this. And I know that when men are in dark times, they drink alcohol or they have lots of sex. What value
can you
bring to this person and see in them?
So how much did you have to fix your relationship with yourself first in order to have a successful relationship with someone else? Even in the realm of dating.
When it comes down to it, people's opinions are not facts, it's just their opinions. Hey, what's up? It's me, your girl Nia, and you are back for another episode of Black Exploration with Nia. I am super excited, just isn't the word. I'm going to say elated. I'm going to use my education for that. I paid enough for it. I am elated to be here with Mr. Terry Griffin. I mean, he's so booked and busy. I see him all the time on all my social media. So whatever strategy you got, I need to know.
That's good.
So we are here, and on this podcast, we are all about authenticity and keeping it real. So today you'll get to meet the man behind the business, right? So we're going to look forward to just learning so much about him. And if you yourself have a story or a journey that you want to share, each one teach one here, go ahead and DM me, email me, or if you know someone that you feel that whose story should be promoted, go ahead and send them this connection. So we are an interactive podcast. So questions are welcome, DM are welcome, and emails are welcome. So let us know your feedback. So without much waited time, I'm going to go ahead and give the mic to Mr. Griffin.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
I'm excited.
I'm actually happy to be here.
Good.
Happy to be here. I remember meeting you at your first, I wasn't your first event, but my first time meeting you. You had the, it was like the man's brunch at Kingston 11. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually excited to be back in your surroundings.
And that's crazy because that was the first event that I ever put on for Black men, and I didn't want to do it. I'm going to give a quick story about that because that was crazy from how we met to where we are now. It's been a full circle. I did that event. And I had just broke up with my boyfriend. I cut all my hair off. And I was on my way to Bali to have whatever experience, solo experience Black women have when they're overseas. And I remember I had got up and God was like, you need to put on this men's event.
It was dope too.
And I looked at my bank account. Thank you.
Okay.
And my bank account did not agree with what God had told me.
Oh, really?
It was like, I was like, listen, okay, so I heard the message.
Right.
But the way that my bank account's looked up, I'm about to take this vacation. I need this money that I saved so that I can, have a hot girl summer.
Hot girl summer in Bali. Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So then I was really contemplating, and I was just like, God was like, okay, if you want to go out the country disobedient, then okay, cool.
Right.
On you. So I was like, all right, fine. So I put on that event. And you showed up, and all these other men showed up, and I was trying to keep it together because I was the only I think it was one other woman who worked for Kingston 11 there, but then it was just me. But I was not expecting the outcome.
That turnout.
I was not expecting that many men to show up. I was not expecting the level of conversation to be had. Right. But after that was over, you guys had taken up a collection and paid for the entire event. And gave me some spending money.
There you go.
Look, okay.
You listened to what God said and you did it and it all worked out.
It did.
It worked out. And you know what? It's hard to get men together like that. You had 20 men there.
Yeah.
Man, I put on my second brotherhood brunch I put on. I only got 6 dudes. Man, it's so hard to get men together. Everybody in their own world doing their own thing.
Yes.
And you had 20
yes.
So that was amazing.
And it's so crazy because some of the men that went to that program are still connected to me in therapy.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Still going to therapy, still doing amazing. like light years from what they came from. You're doing amazing. You were there. So a lot of the men who attended that event really left with something and have built upon, what that event stood for. And so, yeah, that is a testimony.
Yeah, it is. No, you know what is good for just to get together? The vulnerability that was in the room, right? A lot of people, a lot of men not open, like brothers in there crying.
Yes.
And stuff like that, right? So, I mean, that was a very good event. And it's still one of the ones that I still remember.
Oh, good.
You know, still one of the ones I remember.
Good. So, yeah, I was
so
like,
good job to you.
Thank you. Okay, because it wasn't me. I didn't go to Bali. So we are here, and I again, thank you for being here. I know you're really busy. I know you have an event coming up this Sunday.
I do.
It probably will be airing a little later. It'll probably be too late for when it comes out. But I want you to let the audience know, like, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? And what's your event about this Sunday?
So right now, my thing is I'm really big on building a community, right? We have a narrative here in the Bay Area, and the narrative that people push and say a lot is like, we're not supportive of each other. Yeah. There's no community here. Like the Black excellence, like Atlanta and Texas, and like you go there, you'll be able to thrive because the community is so good. I feel that, number one, that it is kind of true. But I also think that here we do have a good community of people, but we're just pushing the wrong narrative.
Oh, okay.
Right? If all we say is we're not supportive of each other and there is no community here and that's just what we push, then that's what we're going to receive.
Right.
So right now is what I'm trying to do is change the narrative. Like there is a community of entrepreneurs here. There is support here. We are here, you are not alone.
Right.
So right now I'm really pushing that and building this community of entrepreneurship because number one, it's needed, but then it's just to show that like we are here for each other.
That's what's
so
up.
I'm pushing that right now, and one of the ways that I'm doing is I'm putting on different like events, like conferences, seminars, educational stuff. Information is currency, right? One of the conversations we were just having before this was like podcasting is the future, right? Podcasting is it, and one of the reasons it is because we're giving out abundance of information all the time. If you watching podcasts, there's so much information out there, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a fan of podcasts because we're giving out a lot of information. It's good information too, right? And so just putting on different educational events and seminars. So this Sunday, which will be July 31st, I have David Shands coming out.
Yeah,
and he has the #1 entrepreneur Black podcast in the country. So I'm bringing him out here to teach about podcasting, how to grow your podcast, how to monetize it, how to make money from it, stuff like that, right? Some things you can learn, but some things you got to get in the room.
Right.
You got a millionaire teaching you how he made his millions from podcasting. Sometimes you got to get in that room and listen and learn.
Yeah. And I'm a big component of education outside of the institutionalized way of learning, especially for Black people.
Right.
Because I am very happy that I have formal education and things of that nature. But what I'm not happy is what it cost me to get it. Right. And I think that when parents who are watching this push the educational narrative, and when those who are going to school are getting in and obtaining it, and those who have it, I think we also have to be transparent about how much assimilation we have to put into that system that leaves out our Black culture in order to gain that education. And I think that one of the things that I'm happy that you and other leaders in the community, even Justin that has this podcasting space for us to use, is that it's not making us have to go through trauma to get information. We shouldn't have to do that, because then, like myself, you get put into a position where there's only 4% Black therapists in the entire world. The entire world,
entire world,
and the whole planet of Earth.
Right, not just your city, like 4% in the world,
in the entire world. Yeah. Okay, and there's 7 billion people on this planet, and only a 4% Black therapists servicing our traumatized community. Right. So that should just tell you like the type of plight. They'll dangle the carrot in front of you, and then the reality that hits you afterwards is like, so I didn't go to school to serve Black people?
Right.
And so then you have to make a choice. Do you continue on with the narrative of the elitist that have taken on that type of mindset, or do you get back to your community and you try something different, but then there's sacrifices that come along with that, right? You don't have that cushion. So we have 4 areas on this podcast that we cover: financial freedom, spirituality, spirituality, and intimacy. So, Mr. Terry is letting me lead him.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm with that.
So, note to all those black women out there who said that black man won't let you lead them. You volunteer for this.
You know, sometimes you gotta. They say you gotta learn to follow before you
I
can lead,
appreciate
right?
that.
And if somebody can lead you in the right direction, I'm willing to follow.
Amen. And as a restorative matriarch, I got you.
I believe in you.
This is natural. All right. So today we're gonna talk about financial freedom because I think it's so sexy when black men talk about money.
Okay.
Okay.
I like money.
So let me know what drives you in your initiative to both gain financial freedom and give back to your community.
Let me tell you what. So I worked in the educational field. I was a teacher and a coach, right? But before that, I just worked in the after school program. Made about like $20,000 a year. I used to look up to like the teachers and stuff. Like, man, if I was a teacher and I made like 45,000, my life would be set.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, ooh, if I get to 45,000 and become a teacher, I'm good, right? Because it's double my salary, right? So I'm thinking it's it. I became a teacher and was just like, I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. Now more of my time is gone,
Right.
and it's just like, that's not it.
Right.
And I was just like, so I mean, it's just the exposure, right?
Yeah.
You think you want to get to a certain level, and when you get there, you like, yeah, that's not it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things was just like, I'm giving my time. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm now giving more time to other people's kids and less time to mine.
Yeah.
And so it's like something has to change. So once I start self-educating myself, learning more about credit and financials and all of that kind of stuff, it was just like, oh, I can do this by myself. I don't have to allow someone else to tell me how much I'm worth. Right? You're telling me I'm only worth $45,000 a year. And it's just like, I'm actually not.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have known that until I did my self-learning, my self-education. And then once I did that, I left. I'm like, I love coaching. I love the kids and all that. But it's like, I'm out.
Yeah, not to your detriment.
I'm out. And then, so once I start making the money and stuff like that, it was just like, yeah, this is way better. So now I want to expose my community to that. And it's just like, okay, somebody doesn't determine your worth. You determine that.
That's what's up.
You just have to put that step forward and just learn and get that information. So that's like my mission, my goal, to let people know, like, we're here, there's a community. You're actually worth more than you're worth more than $20.
Right.
It's something like that, right?
So let's say for the young person, or people who are our age who are not making that much money, or maybe they're making a lot of money but they're not happy in their career, and they're in that gray area that you were in where you're like, I know in my heart something is telling me I'm worth more than this, but what's being presented to me is this, right? What advice would you give that person when it comes to sacrifice?
One thing I will always say, I will always, a lot of people don't believe in like internships or free work and stuff like that. Is people feel like they need a monetary value right now. Free work can go a long way.
Yeah.
Like, and being a mentee or finding a mentor, putting in that work and learning, is going to be key to your success, because there's things that you don't know that you have to be around the right people to learn. And if you learn to like put in mentorships, or not put in mentorships, build internships and work for people for information, that can really help you, right? And so everything that I do, I try to find a mentor in. Like, so even like when I started coaching basketball, I played football. I didn't really play basketball growing up. I was a football person. So, but I found a dope coach that mentored me on coaching.
Yeah.
Right? And so everything that I do, I want to make sure I find someone in that field that knows about it. And just like, but people got to understand, as a mentee, you have to give to get.
Right.
Right? Some people feel like, oh, you're my mentor and I just pour into me. But it's like, you need to take, if someone has a plate full, you coming on, you're just adding to their plate. You have to learn to take something off their plate
Right.
so they can now pour into you.
Right.
So
Right.
I believe in that, in finding a mentor. And so it's just like if it's a field that you want to get in, find somebody that's in it and learn
Yeah.
from them.
And that's a universal law, like law of reciprocity, right? I always tell my clients that I support to be a valuable person.
Yeah.
You know, you want to show up being a valuable person, because when that person is in need, they're going to recognize, oh, so and so, always
Definitely.
adds value to me. Let
Definitely.
me go and reach out to this person. And it doesn't matter how much money that person has, whatever. We're all human. We all get into circumstances, situations where if you're a dependable, reliable person, then that person is going to feel safe and secure
Yes.
with and value you. And then when everybody has their down season, everybody has their up season. I don't care how much money you got, or even when you have organizations, when you get into this real business game, you understand that your personal account and your business account, those are two separate accounts.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
And those accounts got accounts.
Yeah.
So you understand the duality of business, and your business can be thriving, but personally you could be failing in your finances. And you may need a mentee, or need to mentor someone to also help you in bridging that gap, because I've been on both sides of the spectrum, where I've been a mentee, right? And I've had mentors that overstep boundaries, and I've been a mentor where I've overstepped boundaries, and then I've expected too much from my mentee, but I've also give back quality to
Right,
them.
right.
But I feel like it's a dance. And one thing I realized with my mentors who had a lot of money is that I had to use my voice, because they're going to keep using and using and using me, because they had a lot of stuff on their plate, and I don't realize that they're asking me for a lot. And if I keep showing up and saying yes, 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 because I'm putting them at this pedestal and I'm here, then I'm going to overcompensate and
Yeah.
underdeliver, and I'm going to mess that relationship up anyway, versus what I call having the boss talk.
Yeah.
Because this is how it goes when I have to talk to my mentors like this. I say, Nia, you got this. What are you doing? Bitch, you better. This is how I talk to myself. Like it's
Listen,
negative.
uh-huh.
So the word bitch to me is a term of endearment, depending on who's using it and in what phrase and manner. This is called code switching antibodies at the same time. So I'm schooling
Right.
people linguistically. And so the way I use the word itch is like, bitch, get it together. It gets my attention. So I'd be like, bitch, what are you doing? You better get it together and boss up and have this conversation, right? So then my heart be like it like be in knots. And then I know that it's a heart center issue, because when I was younger, I come from a household that's like, children don't have opinions.
Definitely.
They respect adults at all times, and that's respect. So could probably have something on my heart to share, but because I was a child, I didn't have enough validity to share it, right? And so sometimes that comes up to me with authority,
Right.
any type of authority figure. So I have to do that dance between, hey, first of all, you're not a kid anymore, and then second of all, like, bitch, you better boss up. That's what bosses do.
You said something important. So I'm on this journey of like personal development. And so I've always heard of Jim Rohn,
Oh, okay.
but I never like fully listened to him. Right. And so now I'm on this like deep dive of like binging Jim Rohn.
Okay. He has powerful content.
Dope, powerful content. And you said something that you got to become valuable.
Yeah.
You have to become valuable, and you have to learn like what that value is.
Yeah.
And that is something, one of his speeches that I watched, he was saying that like, you have to become more valuable, and the more valuable you become, the more like you're sought after, or the better your life will become, because you become more valuable for not to other people, but only for yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And once you become more valuable to yourself, things will start changing.
Yes.
So I'm like on that right now. Like, how can I become more of a value person?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like so big on this personal development right now, because I just know everything that I do is determined on how better I become.
Right.
My business, me being a father, me being a husband, me being just anything. Everything depends on me.
Yeah.
Right? And if I want things to become better, I have to become better.
Right.
And so it's just like me becoming better, me becoming more valuable. Was like, how can I become more better? And I would just believe personal development is like the key to like success.
Yeah.
And so just like, okay, my business, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the CEO.
Right.
So how can I want my business to become better, but I'm not?
Exactly. And you know what? It doesn't. Your business will outgrow you, and then somebody will come in and run it for you.
Take it.
So that's really what ends up happening in those situations. It's happened to me before,
Okay.
and I've seen it happen to people, and I've literally seen the trickle down effect of how that happens, and it's because that person, for whatever blocks they may have, they can't get over those things, and so they have to kind of either someone's going to take power or they have to give it away. You know, so I kind of want to rewind back to. The fact that you're a leader, like before you were an entrepreneur, you're saying you're married and you have children, you know, so I believe that leadership starts in the home first before it starts anywhere else. So tell me a little bit about like fatherhood, your relationship with your wife. How do you hold that down and still be a trailblazer in an entrepreneurship? Because there's not a lot of black men who are entrepreneurs.
Balance.
Okay.
And I'm still learning.
Okay.
I'm still learning. It's not easy, right? Because being an entrepreneur sometimes do require like late hours. Some do require me to travel. Does require me to like be away from home. So we're just learning how to balance everything, like how to be a good father, right? You know, I have 4 biological kids, but with marriage I have 5.
Okay.
So like, how do I spend time with my kids? You know, when does spending time with my kids or spending time with my wife or spending time on my business, like how do I balance that out? And so it's just really just figuring that out,
Right.
and it's still something that I don't think you'll just ever fully figure out, but you just have to learn and adapt as things goes, because everybody is different. Like my kids are growing up. One's in basketball, the other's in cheerleading, another one's in dance. And so it's like now you got all these different competitions and all these different things that you're doing. But then you got to speak and you got to work. And then, you know, your wife want alone time and date nights and all of that stuff. So it's just really trying to find a balance to everything. And it's just not, I would just say this, don't beat yourself up.
Okay, good.
That would be my thing. Do not beat yourself up when things don't go how you want it to go. You're going to miss some things.
Yeah.
You're going to drop the ball sometimes. But the thing is just being able to move on, because if you dwell on that, you will never be able to move forward. So just learning to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you make and just make better choices as you move forward. I think that is going to be key.
I'm a spirit-led person, and my spirit just want to get up and dance. So, like, you just hit something
You guys go dance?
spiritually. Like, I was just like, yes! Instant spirit come through with this message. So, what I spiritually gravitated towards was don't beat yourself up, right? And the reason why I gravitated towards that is that we're in a season of unknown, right? For the last 56 years, we've had a system that hasn't worked for us, but we've assimilated into, right? And now we have a system that doesn't exist, and the other one is old one is kind of falling apart right now. So there's a really great gray area space, especially for black leaders who are jumping on this entrepreneur wave to kind of, you know, rise up to the occasion. And one of those things that we can't continue to use as a source of motivation is negative self-talk. So I just did this 21-day fitness challenge with Herbalife. Hey, so out to Herbalife because they got me looking absolutely right.
You know what? I was on Facebook.
Did you see me studying on that?
And I seen you running and exercising and posting your pictures. I'm like, okay, I see you.
Listen, I'm going to be transparent. That's for the haters.
There we go.
My baby daddies.
Speak to them.
I'm just letting everybody know that, listen, it's never too late, and there's always people to prove wrong. And that's, I mean, it's not from a place of like being cynical or anything, but you know, there's so many different. I've in my journey towards entrepreneurship and just being a black woman who's successful, is I've met two types of people in my life: the ones who want to see you do better, and the ones who hate to see you do good. And so I use both for either situation. Right now in this fitness journey, I look good enough to stop. Right?
Okay.
But then I also don't look good enough not to stop.
I like that.
So I'm at this gray area, and I have to use the haters as motivators because the people who support me, they're really on my team. Right. But going back to negative self-talk, when I first introduced to this challenge, I come from a very high performing athletic family, and so like if you got a push, you got a problem.
Pass
right?
Some of that. Listen, I'm trying to start this fitness journey.
They like me nice. They're like, oh, you look nice, but like, is your face getting bigger? It's like, oh no, no. I think it's just the sun, right? So like my family is like real, like me nice to you. So for me, I mean, it's not just competitive around me; it's competitive in my family structure.
Right.
So I got on this journey because I just had this indoctrinated to my mind. My mom was very, very much of a perfectionist, and
Right.
so she trained us like when you walk into the room, you just better be like her, and like you
Oh
better
yeah.
hold your regard, and you bet
Oh yeah.
all this top tiers type stuff because that's just how she was. And so there's a certain point in my and just in me, I'm just conditioned to get to, and so I was using this challenge to like not get to that point, right? I knew I was kind of getting out of weight because I had to suck my stomach in, and so when I started the journey, I was for that. But then when I was on the journey, I realized that I can't keep up with that. That's not sustainable. Like I can't be motivated by what my mother conditioned me to and what other people think about me
Definitely.
and negatively,
Definitely.
motivating myself. So the journey turned into, okay, how can I accept my body in its natural state, but push myself because I want to get better, and that drive me. That was so hard. Like
I think
switching
that's
from that,
important. I
it was
think
so hard.
as we talk about this and as we talk about entrepreneurship and just what you just kind of touched on is like your why.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you doing what you do? I think that's something important, and that's something that we have to know. And so, if like your why, I just say you have to attach your why to something that's really important, and it
Yeah.
can't be like money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if your why is so like something materialistic like money, then once the money not coming in, then you tend to turn away
Right.
from whatever that is. So if your why is to be like to shame the haters or something like that, then it can get to a point to where it's like you ain't really tripping about it no more, right?
Right.
So you want to attach, your why to something important. So I do one-on-one coaching, right? And so one of the things is in my training, I teach my clients like, okay, what's your why? Attach your why to something good. And I use an example. I can cuss on here, right?
Yeah,
Pretty
and you
good.
can use me
Cuss.
as an example too if you want to too.
So I would just say like if you attach your why to your kids,
Right.
I'm doing this for my kids, right? So anytime that you're being lazy and not doing it, you're in reality you're saying fuck them kids. So if your why is to create generational wealth, but yet you're being lazy for 2 days straight, during that lazy moment, you're really just saying fuck them kids. I'm not worried about their future.
Right. That's a
See, but that's
conviction.
why you have to attach something important to your
Yeah.
why. Because if you're not doing what you're saying that you're gonna do, you're really just sitting there like, does your actions really show that you're trying to reach this goal? A lot of times we say we want to achieve this and we want to achieve that, but our actions don't show that we want to achieve that. So we say things because it sound good, but your actions don't really show that's what you want to do.
Right.
So that's why we have to attach something so important to why we're doing what we do, so it can be a reflection to keep us going and keep us pushing.
So how can, because I have some single women that are watching this show, or maybe they're married, or maybe they're in relationship. How can women, I love to educate black women, okay?
Okay.
So how can black women support black men when they're in that gray area of needing that motivation?
How can women support black men? And so is this support just any black man? Is it a relationship,
No, in a
boyfriend?
relationship, I think
In
we
a
support black men
relationship?
enough for no reason.
Um, I would just that's a tough one. I would just say, so I'll just go from my opinion, right?
Okay.
I think that for me, I think support looks different for everyone. So I believe number one is having that conversation of what support looks like to your man,
Okay.
or what he wants from you. So I think that's number one, is having that conversation, because we don't have, there's not enough conversation had, so there's no clarity in
Right.
what different things look like. So what support may look like for me may be different for you or him or her or anybody else. So number one, having that conversation, have clarity. But I think in speaking in like belief into your spouse or your partner, right? Let them know that you have them. Let them know that you believe in them. Let them know that to keep going, to keep pushing, because you. I mean, you'll hear and see things of like arguments, right? And so the real feelings come out when you get into a heated argument, right? Now
Right.
it's like you in this stupid little podcast or something like that, right? Or this stupid thing or this little thing right there. So the information to how somebody really feel comes out in the
Right.
argument, right? So I just think just having clarity, just having clarity and talking to your person just to see what supports look like for them.
Yeah.
I think
You
that's
know what has helped me with when supporting black men in general and in a personal relationship is I don't make it about me.
definitely.
Right. It's been so many times that I put myself in a position and just came at my spouse from that narrative,
Uh huh.
and then there it ends up turning into them explaining why, and then consoling me.
Right.
Right. And then they leave the situation with nothing emotional,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
giving energy. So for me, I watch the energy.
Okay.
Right. I try to be mindful of like going into it. What am I trying to say outside of my emotions and being triggered? And sometimes I have to write it down. Sometimes I have to ask for timeouts,
I
because
like
I'm a
that.
passionate
I
woman.
like that.
And so I try to be very purposeful because I know I can be passionate, and my words can cut deep. Like I just stabbed you with a
That's
knife.
hurt.
So I try not to belittle the person that I'm connecting with because that's not going to, I want him to be strong. I don't want
Yeah.
to beat him up.
Yeah.
And so I think that another thing that we can start doing is not making it about us when we think it's about us. Like that's what a therapist is for, or like really healthy, good friends. Like talk it out, talk it through. Also, another thing I realized is that I have to watch my friends and who I share my information with, because you have some friends that they mean the best, but they're terrible at giving advice to keep you with your own man.
You can't get advice from everybody. And like I say, everybody is different, right?
Right.
So she can't give you advice on your man because she not with your man,
Exactly.
or she don't know what it takes or how he feels or anything like that. So, and then a lot of times, and just in reality, when we tell stories, we are biased when we tell
Right.
stories.
Exactly.
We tell stories in the favor of us. So if I'm talking to my boy about my girl, I'm going to tell him the story, but I'm going to tell him in a perspective, so it can seem like I'm right and she wrong. We don't really, that's why they say it's two sides to a story, right? So
Right.
even if you talking to your friends, when you tell her, girl, this, you're going to tell her the story that's going to make it sound real good for
Right.
you. So when she's giving advice to you, it's going to be like you are right and he's wrong.
Right. And you'll be in
Right.
the third person into the conversation when there needs to be two. Right. So
Definitely.
I think some keen advice to my queens who are out here listening for that, like advice that they probably wouldn't get from their mother, is to just be cool. Take some deep breaths, calm yourself down, be purposeful about your intention about the conversation. And most importantly, don't make everything about you. Everything's probably about you like 95% of the time. Give them that 5% for grace, right? Make room for grace. So I want to talk generational legacy.
Okay.
And what does that look like to you from an entrepreneur mindset?
You know what? A lot of people, we hear this term generational wealth, generational wealth. As I'm learning more about it, a lot of people are going about it the wrong way, I believe. In entrepreneurship, one thing we slack on is like the legalizing things.
Yeah.
We don't have paperwork for stuff. We
Nothing.
not. So what are you actually passing down? You can start this good business, but then this business could be making money, but then you ain't got no trust. You ain't got no will. Your name ain't actually trademarked, and so I think that documentation is needed to really pass down generational wealth. And without that, we are really slacking. But I think that's uh, it's more of a mindset thing because it's not really talked about a lot, right? It's not talked about a lot. Trademarking and copywriting and all of that stuff. You can't pass down generational wealth without that.
Yeah.
So I think that narrative needs to be pushed more on legalizing everything so you can pass down generational.
Yeah.
Right? Because then stuff happens in your family. So grandma got a house, grandma passed away. Now all the siblings fighting over the house. Now we fighting over the house and now nothing happens from it, right? So just really putting down what it is you want, what it is you want with your business, your money, how you want to split it, where you want it to go. I think that needs to be talked about more because who somebody what story was I just reading? I was just reading a story of somebody passed away. I can't remember who passed away. Somebody just passed away. Somebody popular passed away, and their family is just going to court trying to fight for like the money. But
Yeah.
they can't get it because it wasn't nothing documented and nothing set properly, right? So I think that documentation is going to be key to, you know.
And that's great that you bring that up, because a lot of those conversations are because we're in this fight or flight mode, and we're just trying to survive, so we don't take the necessary like pauses and breaks as we're building our wealth,
Right.
to really do and handle the business side, the real business side of it. So just some therapeutic things that people can do to help them with that is not be in such a rush because you're making up for lost time. There's no such thing as lost time. Okay. There's just the art of being present. And one thing that I realized, like, my first year was full of mistakes, and then my second year was full of correcting those mistakes. Yeah. So I'm still in that transitional phase where I'm going into my third year, but I'm also a lot wiser in what I choose to have my energy involved in, the type of people I align with to do that. But most importantly, the fact that I had to own the fact that I was a businesswoman. Mm-hmm. Like, for so long, I was indoctrinated into that employee, like, I gotta do for others mindset, that it was hard for me to switch from that behind the scenes to in front of the scenes mindset. And like, I had a lot of pushback emotionally from myself on like I'll miss important meetings in the morning because I wouldn't get up. Right. And so I had to start tricking myself, like lying to myself about what time the meeting was, and like putting my meetings in the afternoon, because it got to a point where it was like I was fighting against myself. And so I had to give myself space and time to adapt to that different psyche. Have you ever been in situations in your business where you're like, you know what, I can feel like I'm sabotaging myself because this is new?
That's funny.
Can you give an example of that?
I was just about to say, we do a lot of self sabotaging in entrepreneurship, and sometimes it's just because things are going well, and sometimes we don't feel we actually deserve it.
Yeah.
And so because we don't actually feel we deserve it, we self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just learning how to understand, like, I do deserve this.
Yeah.
I think that also comes with a lot of personal development, like we were saying earlier. And so it's just learning to, like, I do deserve this, like, and just learning that I think you got to learn yourself. Like, what am I feeling right now? Why am I doing this? I think that is it, because also going with the self-sabotaging, it goes with the imposter syndrome.
Right.
And I so I was just booked to speak at an event this weekend, and so it was just like, even though I know, like, I'm a good speaker and I'm actually a good educator, sometimes I'd be like, am I really that good? Or can I really do this? Or like, or just out of nervousness, right? And so I have to, like, pump myself up or talk to myself like, you actually are dope. You actually are good. And then sometimes as I'm speaking and I'm seeing the audience is like hella engaged, and I'll be like, oh, I'm actually good at what I do. Like, I'm actually not bad. I'm actually good at what I do. And this confidence I need to have all the time. So I just think just working on the confidence and just seeing, like, figuring out why you're doing the different things that you're doing, so you can learn to check those emotions. We are our biggest critic, as they say, right? We hardest on ourselves. So just learning how to, I think the me versus me is, like, real. And I think people really need to understand that, is like, a lot of times it's really you holding yourself back.
Yeah.
So just check in, what is that? Right. Why am I doing that? How can I stop? Why am I self-sabotaging? Why am I waking up later knowing that I need to be up? Why am I waking up at 10 when I know I got a meeting at 9?
Yeah.
So it's just figuring that out, and then just, self-reflecting, and, like I said, personal development.
Yeah. And so a few things. Black men are such leaders, it's ridiculous. Like, it is ridiculous. It's just something that there's a whole system set up
right,
for you guys not to lead, right? And the reason why I say that Black men are leaders, first of all, is anthropologically, scientifically, statistically, like, across the board in multiple disciplinaries, that Black people were the first, right? Black people created civilizations. We created the educational system that they still use today. And so the engineering behind that mentally, we have black men specifically, in addition to black women, have the DNA characteristic traits. So
Okay.
Europeans came 50,000 years ago, right? We go back almost 5,000 plus years ago, right? And when it comes to evolution, so we have those epigenetic DNA markers that when we're not in spaces of distress, we can actually tap into that.
Okay.
And you can, if you're a natural, if you come from a lineage, right, of leaders, right?
Okay.
So one of my kings, my Return to King participants, he has this map, and I actually bought one too, and it goes back to ancient Kemetic times and before. And so when he pulled this map out, it's like from this wall to that wall, and slavery was like this much of it,
Yeah.
like this, that much, and then there's all this other stuff expanded from that. So when I look at it from like a scientific perspective, right, I'm like, I get to tap into all that DNA if I just like chill out and not
Yeah.
be in this survival mode and not try to
Right.
come from this long suffering slavery mentality. And the answer is yes. But I had to go through therapy and do a lot of meditation and like positive affirmations, and like it's come from a spirit led, because there's no system going to teach us this, right? Come from a spirit led. So what I mean by spirit, like how I was telling you, when my heart starts to say, get in the block of
Yeah,
that, right? Because
right.
I'm in the survival mode.
Right.
It's like, well, what's stopping you, right? And then going over, well, what is that about? Like sabotaging. Well, what about time is bothering you, right? Asking myself those right questions, so then I can dip back into my consciousness, right? That supersedes anything I've ever been through, and I might get a download or an answer. And sometimes when I'm patient enough, it may not come at that time,
Okay.
but it'll come from a future perspective and set me up for something that hasn't come yet. That's even bigger than the thing I'm questioning.
Okay.
But because I took the time to question it, when the second thing that's big come up, I'm already that much more ready, because I would have asked myself and took the time to kind of rationalize it and understand it, rather than just move on from it and say, oh, life is hard. And so I only share that with you because you're in a leadership capacity where it's going to be spirit led.
Definitely.
Like, you gonna have to get up and be like, hey, ancestors, what we doing today? And they're like, oh, hey Terry, what's up? We've been watching you. Okay, so this is what we want to do, and this is what, and the bigger pictures start coming out, because I feel like, when you say yes, you're purposed. There's so many people who get the opportunity to say yes and they don't take it.
They don't take it.
You don't take it.
Yeah.
So there's a leadership quality in saying yes.
Yeah. So like, everybody, I believe. So one of the things I teach is like marketing and branding. And so everybody has branding, right? And one of the branding ways I call like my audience is like decision makers, right? And so you have to be a decision maker. Either you're going to do it or you're not. And so what you just said just spoke to me, and because like you got to make that decision.
Yeah.
You have to just make the decision.
Yeah.
And the decision is like a lot of times, it's going to either be yes or no.
Yeah.
So you just get up and just make that decision.
And if people are looking for the blueprint and they're being led to do something that's out of their comfort zone, you are the blueprint.
You are.
Sometimes you have to, accept that. Right. And I think that we all go through our entrepreneur journey. When we first start, we wrestle with like, do I want to? Do I not want to? So comparison, all this other thing is just like, at some point, when the rubber hits the road and all arrows are pointing back to yes, then you gotta, make that boss decision and that leadership decision, and you have to go with how you feel, right? Not what you see. And I think this is a very timely conversation, because I definitely think that there's somebody watching this who probably is on the cusp of, making that decision. And listen, I left a 6-figure job to help Black people.
There we go.
And I didn't want to do that.
No, it's that's a tough decision to make, right? That's definitely a tough decision to make. So in you making that decision, how has that decision panned out for you?
So in that decision, when I first left my job, I had a full panel,
Okay.
so I didn't miss no money. I actually made more money.
There we go.
I broke a generational cycle of living in poverty because depending on those checks every 2 weeks was making me codependent. I'm a better mother, and I can show up as a leader with my daughter and not be double minded in what I say to her because I'm too tired to parent her. And it allows me flexibility to live a very luxury lifestyle that if I had depended on a system to give me that, I don't think I would be able to have it in a manner in which I can manage it. Okay. Right? I think that one of the things I had adopted to was working like crazy and then going on vacations just to relax, like to like get away from working from crazy. And it was this vicious cycle of like, I never really enjoyed my vacations because I was recovering from working for them. Yeah. That now I get to go on vacation and I look forward to just like, sometimes I work on vacation because it's my lifestyle.
You like what you do.
Yeah, it's my lifestyle.
You like what you do. Yeah, I'll do the same thing. Right, once you start, there's a lot of cliche sayings, but in those cliche sayings, like they're really meaningful, right? And so one of the things is like, once you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel like work, right? Because it's actually at times where it's just like, I enjoy working and what I do so much that when I'm not doing it, it's just like, what am I doing? Yep. So like going on a vacation is cool. I just went to Mexico for like a week for my cousin's wedding, and I had fun, family time, all of that stuff. But I also enjoy what I do so much. It's just like, I still want to work. I want to go back. Create content, or I'm out here in Mexico. What kind of content can I create that'll be good for my business? Right. I enjoy doing what I do. So no matter where I'm at, I just still want to work. Yeah. Because it doesn't feel like work to me. But when I was at my job or my 9 to 5, when I was away, I just wanted to be away. Yeah. I didn't want to do nothing. Right? Like you said, you're just recovering from this like the stress and all that. Exactly. So now I just want to just be here, kind of like be lazy, not do nothing. But when you enjoy what you do, it's just like, oh, yeah. I'm still having fun, enjoying my vacation, putting a little work in here and there, and it's cool.
And there's a person for everything, right? There's a person who thrives in stress situations, and they look forward to working, a 9 to 5 because they're happy there. Right. But this message is particularly for those people who are not happy, who feel like they don't have an outlet or any next plan B to go to if that doesn't work out for them. So can you tell me like what is the importance of a plan B for you?
I don't believe in a plan B.
Tell me about that.
Because I believe that once you have a plan B, you are planning to fail. Okay. So I am all about plan A, and if plan A doesn't work, okay, now I just got to backtrack and make sure that it works. Keep figuring out what plan A is and how to keep figuring out how to make plan A work. So it's like, all right, I'm going to do this podcast. But if this podcast don't work, then I'm going to go and do this. It's just like, no, I'm going to make this podcast work. Right. And then as along the journey, it's like, okay, I'm seeing these things that's not working. It's like, all right, how can I fix it? Right. To make it better. Right. It's just, I don't believe in failing. I believe it's just data points in your journey to success. Oh, great. So I'm just not a plan B type of person. I'm just, this is my purpose. This is what I'm here for. It has to work or it has to work. That's my mentality. You just like making me feel so spiritually like alive. Come on then. That's what I'm here for. Let's go. Spirit. So I teach my clients, one of the things I teach them is 3 ways of failure. Okay. Right? You can approach failure. So the first is perceived failure. Like you already know, it's preventable. If you did XYZ, you would have not failed. If you would have did XYZ, you would have not failed. Okay. Then there's unpredictable failure, right? And that's like, no matter what you could have, like COVID-19 is an unpredictable failure for a lot of businesses, right? They just weren't, they had to learn from their mistakes because they didn't know to perceive a pandemic coming on, right? And then there's intellectual failure, which you just described. And intellectual failure is going to be key in this time, especially for first-generational wealth builders, people who are really trying to get ahead of the game. And intellectual failure is exactly what you just said. There's no such thing as failure. There's only lived experiences and wisdom. Yeah. Right? Definitely. You take what you didn't do right,
check it, then release it, then move on to what you did right, apply it to the next step, and keep going. And it really is a time thing because you can either choose to dwell on that and that define you, and you just be lost in your things that you didn't do and you didn't prepare for, and you weren't, and that you did predict, or you could cut your losses, save time, and keep moving forward, right? One is a proactive mindset. The other one is a long suffering mindset. Yeah. And so Black people, we toggle back and forth between which mindset to be involved in. And so what you just talked about is intellectually failing.
Okay.
So you don't believe in failure.
I don't. I don't believe in it. I mean, shit happens.
Right.
Shit happens, and sometimes we don't win, but there's always more opportunity to keep going and keep trying to win and revisit, reset. So I'm definitely a believer in that. And so, and a lot of times I go back to what you said is a lot of times is, okay, what didn't I do? Mm-hmm. I didn't do something. Mm-hmm. I messed up, or I slacked on this, or what could I have done better, or I know I should have did this. And so that's sometimes the thing is just like, yeah, that didn't work out because I didn't do X.
Right.
So I know I need to improve and do that, and then it will work out for me. So
basically, you need to go get coached by Terry because you ain't gonna fail.
Come on, we winners around here. Listen,
Brother Man said he does not believe in failure. No plan B's with him.
We winners around here. Listen, we
nothing
winners.
But winners. So when you win, you Terry, you in a winner circle.
You in a winner. Listen, you are in the winner circle. I like success, and I like success around me.
That's what's up,
right? Because I know if success is touching anybody in this room, that I know that it's in the room, and I'm next.
That's a very good analogy to come by. You dropped so many jewels. I could keep you for forever, but we don't live in that world right now.
No, we
right?
don't. But I appreciate you.
So time is money, and I know you have to go live out your legacy. So where can we see you at in 5 years?
Ooh, in 5 years, I'm more looking at 2-3 years, but in 5 years. So my thing is, I put on conferences and stuff now, and they're smaller on a smaller scale. But I plan on having 2-3 day big conferences in the Bay Area. You have to, like I said, you have to travel to go to these conferences, Atlanta and Texas and all of this stuff. Maybe even LA. Mm-hmm. People don't come to the Bay Area and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So my goal is to have big 2-3 day conferences here in the Bay Area. Right, so that's a goal and a vision of mine that I want. And then another thing is to be booked out to speak at big events and bigger conferences and stuff like that. So I'm getting there.
I see you there.
I'm moving. I'm mixing and mingling. I'm getting booked, and I'm speaking at different stuff. But my goal is just always bigger, a grand scale of things. So it's just that's 5 years, big conferences here in the Bay Area, me being booked out to speak at bigger events.
And how can the Bay Area support you?
Money, right?
Okay.
No, in reality though, just awareness and just showing up.
Okay.
Right? A lot of people don't do those type of events here because they don't see the value.
Right.
But in order for people to start seeing the value, we have to support and come. Right? So once we start making noise, people going to be like, where that noise coming from?
Right.
So we have to come together more and make a louder noise. And once we make louder noise, people going to be like, oh yeah, something dope going on in the Bay Area. I need to be a part of that. I need to get
So
there.
Support your events. Are you looking for speakers? Are you what particularly? So if the Bay Area can show up for you in an insurmountable way and give you the things that you need to make that vision come to fruition in 5 years, what particularly can they do?
Okay, so I'll go. One of the things is coming to the events that I'm having.
Come to the events.
Buying a ticket, come to the event.
Okay.
Right? Show up. The other thing would be is invest in yourself.
Okay.
The better you become, the better we become as a community. Mm-hmm. Right? And the third thing would just be supporting, and support goes like we said earlier, whether it's sharing a post or commenting on a post or liking a post or donating money, stuff like that. That support goes a long way.
And where can people find you to support you?
I am Terry Griffin on all platforms.
Terry
Griffin.
So chill.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, website. I am Terry Griffin everything.
I am Terry Griffin. Well, I want to thank you for A couple of things I want to thank you for. Thank you for being a healthy black man.
I,
Okay, I feel the healthy
not as healthy
energy.
as yours. I need to be on that 21-day challenge. And I'll be more.
We getting
healthy.
there. I got you. I got
This
you.
belly ain't showing that I'm that healthy,
Listen.
but you know,
We getting there one
we gonna
step at
get
a
there.
time.
There
Okay,
we go.
greatness is built over time.
5 years,
One
I'm gonna have a
night.
6-pack.
Okay,
How about that? There
hey,
we go.
we out here. I got you. Okay, so healthy black man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being a great father, a great husband. I appreciate you being a community figure. I appreciate you loving the Bay Area as much as I do, because we could have left and been somewhere else and doing a lot of different things.
Definitely.
And I appreciate you just for just following your dreams.
Thank
so
you.
continue to be an influencer in here in these streets. We are set to innovate 100 years in 10 years because of the pandemic.
There we go.
Everything is light years, and in that evolution, a transfers of energy as far as monetary and how we get money is happening. So I would love to ask the ancestors to bless you to be in the forefront of that, because I know it's going to come back to the Bay Area. So I'm sending all blessings your way. I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this. Like, when this come out, send it to me so I can just send it to everybody.
Amen. I appreciate that. And how you guys, our audience, our faithful people, can continue to support this podcast is to, like Terry said, hit him up, support him, support all of our guests that are on this podcast, share this podcast, and we want you involved in this too. So put you in this too. Don't be a spectator, be a participant. I want to thank you guys again for exploring with me today, and I will see you back for another episode of Black Exploration with Nia. Peace.